For 20,000 years, humanity was silent. No one had seen them, no one had heard them, and no one even knew if they still existed. Once, long ago, they had ruled the stars with unmatched skill and courage. Their fleets were known as storms of steel, their soldiers as the nightmare of empires. But then, without warning, they were gone. Some said they were wiped out by a great enemy. Others whispered they had gone into hiding, waiting for the right moment to return. The galaxy moved on, new empires rose, old ones fell, and the memory of humanity became nothing more than a story told to frighten young cadets. On the day it happened, the Galactic Council was meeting in the Hall of Worlds. It was a grand place, with walls of crystal and light from 100 suns shining through. Delegates from every major race were there, arguing as they always did. The Virak Empire wanted higher trade taxes, the Karath Dominion threatened war over border disputes, and the soft-voiced Eldari tried to keep peace. It was just another day in the politics of the galaxy. Then the alarms began to ring, a deep, shaking sound that made the crystal walls hum. Every delegate froze, their voices caught in their throats. The council guards looked at their scanners, their eyes widening. Something massive had entered known space, something the scanners could barely identify. A ship was approaching. It came from the deep void, a place no known race dared to travel. It was larger than any warship on record, longer than a city, with armor plates black as midnight. Strange glowing blue lines ran along its hull like veins, pulsing slowly. Its shape was not sleek like most modern ships. It was built like a fortress, heavy and unyielding. It moved forward with steady, unstoppable purpose. The entire galactic communication network lit up with calls and demands for information. Every station, every fleet, every world was asking the same question. What is it? And who does it belong to? In the Hall of Worlds, the council leader, a towering reptilian named Garoth, slammed his claw on the table. "Identify that ship," he roared. A nervous tech officer's voice came through the speakers, trembling as he read the data. It's broadcasting a signal, sir," he said. The council members leaned forward. "What signal?" Garoth demanded. The tech swallowed hard before speaking. "It says, 'We have returned.'" The words froze the air. Some delegates gasped, others laughed in disbelief. But the oldest members of the council, those who remembered the ancient stories, looked afraid. One Eldari diplomat whispered, almost to herself, "Humans." The word spread through the chamber like fire through dry grass. No one wanted to believe it, yet no one could deny it. The signal was old, coded in a way no modern system used, yet the message was clear. Humanity was back. The council ordered all fleets in nearby sectors to intercept. Military channels burst into life with shouted orders and frantic preparations. On distant stations, crews scrambled to their posts, loading weapons and powering shields. But there was a problem. The human warship did not stop. It ignored every hail, every warning, every threat. It moved closer and closer to the heart of the galaxy. Its engines made no sound in the void, but its presence felt like a drumbeat. In the bones of every living thing, ships sent to shadow it reported strange readings. Their sensors could not measure the warship's full energy output, as if it were hidden behind layers of something unknown. Its armor seemed to bend light, making it difficult to focus on any single section for long. And then there were the weapons. No one could see any, but the ship's design radiated the feeling of power. It was like looking at a predator lying still, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Across the galaxy, fear began to grow. The young races, who thought humans were just stories, now watched the footage with wide eyes. The old races, who remembered human wars, felt an ache deep in their memory. One thing was certain, this was no diplomatic mission. Whatever the humans had been doing for 20,000 years, they had returned with purpose. And if the galaxy tried to stop them, there would be a price. In the Hall of Worlds, silence fell. The warship's image hung in the air above the council table, its black armor swallowing the light. Garoth, the council leader, turned to the assembly. his voice lower now. If they have truly returned, the galaxy will never be the same, he said. No one argued, because far out in the void, that black warship kept moving, slow, steady, unstoppable, and every heartbeat brought it closer. Whispers traveled faster than light, from one end of the galaxy to the other. The name of humanity was spoken again on mining stations in the cold belt. Workers stopped their drills to watch shaky footage of the black warship. In the golden towers of the Eldari homeworld, diplomats spoke in hushed voices, afraid the walls themselves might be listening. Merchants on distant trade routes paused mid-bargain, turning to the nearest screen as the news spread. For 20,000 years, humans had been nothing but legend. Now they were real again, and moving straight toward the galactic core. In the smoky halls of the Varrock Empire, warlords argued loudly. Some claimed the humans had been gone too long to matter. Others remembered the old war stories. Stories of fleets turned to wreckage in days. The Karath Dominion's High Council. Gathered in secret chambers, they spoke not of welcome, but of how to destroy the humans before they became a threat. For the Karath had once fought them, and lost badly. That wound had never healed, if the humans were back. The Dominion would not wait for them to grow stronger. Civilian chatter filled the communication networks, on entertainment channels. People debated whether the warship was even real. Some believed it was a hoax by one of the major powers to scare the smaller ones into obedience. Others pointed to the ship's design. No modern race could build something like that. There were no visible engines, yet it moved with impossible speed. There were no open weapons, yet every viewer felt as if it could destroy them with a thought. Old veterans, long retired, whispered to their grandchildren, "They're back." And the galaxy doesn't know what's coming. The Galactic Council ordered all major fleets to prepare for a possible war. But their messages to the human warship went unanswered. Every race sent probes, but each one either vanished or was ignored. The ship's shields, if they were shields, bent every scan. It was as if the vessel existed in two places at once. Even the best scientists could not explain it. The mystery only made the fear grow in the shadows of the galaxies. Underworld, smugglers and information brokers worked fast. They searched old records, stolen archives, anything that might explain the return. Some found fragments of pre-silence human transmissions. One message was repeated over and over in different files, a warning about something beyond the rim. No one knew what it meant, but those who read it felt uneasy. It was not the tone of conquerors preparing to invade. It was the tone of soldiers preparing for something worse. Meanwhile, the warship kept moving. It did not attack, it did not slow down, and it did not change course. Planets along its path evacuated their skies, clearing all civilian traffic. Entire defense fleets moved aside rather than risk a confrontation. Even the proudest military commanders hesitated. They remembered the stories. Humans did not bluff. If they fought to win, and they did not stop until the enemy was gone. In the quiet darkness of space, a lone Eldari research vessel shadowed the warship from a distance. Its captain, an old scholar named Sorith, spoke into his personal log. "It moves as if the rest of the galaxy does not matter," he said softly. "There is no fear, no hesitation, only purpose." His crew avoided eye contact with the massive shape on their screens. It felt wrong to look at it for too long, as if the warship could feel their eyes on it. On the other side of the galaxy, deep inside the Karath Dominion, the High Warlord made his choice. 1,000 warships would be sent to intercept the humans before they reached the Council worlds. His advisors warned him that it might provoke a war. The High Warlord only growled, "If we wait, there will be no war, only surrender." The order was given, and the fleet began to gather. Every engine burned bright, every weapon charged. The galaxy was holding its breath, waiting for the first shot to be fired. But far from the politics and fear, in the uncharted regions, something else was stirring. Invisible to all but the most ancient sensors, shapes moved in the void. They were vast, silent, and older than the galaxy itself. Their movement was slow, patient, like predators waiting for prey. And if the whispers were true, it was not the human warship the galaxy should fear. It was what that warship was running toward. Deep inside the black warship, far from the eyes of the galaxy, a single figure stood at the center of the command deck. The room was vast, lit only by soft blue lines running along the walls, each pulse matching the slow rhythm of the ship itself. Every surface was smooth metal, but it did not look like ordinary steel. It seemed alive, shifting slightly as if breathing, in the middle of the room. The man rested his hands on a table made of the same strange material. He was tall, his hair silver, but his face ageless, his eyes sharp as if they had seen too many lifetimes. This was Admiral Kalen, the last war leader of the human fleets. Before the silence, he had been asleep for 20,000 years, preserved in a deep stasis chamber buried in the warship's core. The stasis was more than sleep. It kept his body strong, his mind clear, and his memories untouched by time. When the moment came, the ship itself had awakened him. It had spoken to him in the ancient human tongue. The words were simple. It has begun, and so Kalen had returned to command. Just as he had been promised long ago, around him, his crew moved with precision. They were not many, barely 100 men and women, but each one had been trained before the silence. They were the best of humanity's warriors, preserved like their admiral. Every officer knew their role, and no one spoke without purpose. The ship's systems responded to them as if they were part of its own mind. It was not just a vessel. It was a weapon forged to fight a war the galaxy had forgotten. Kalen's eyes scanned the tactical display hovering above the table. It showed the path ahead, council worlds, military checkpoints, and finally, the edge of known space. Beyond that edge was something the galaxy could not imagine. Kalen knew it well, for he had seen it once before. It was the reason humanity had vanished. It was the reason they had built this ship, and it was the reason they had chosen silence instead of diplomacy. One of his officers approached, her voice steady but urgent. "Admiral, the Karath fleet is moving to intercept 1,000 ships," she reported. Kalen did not look surprised. "The Karath have not changed," he said quietly. "They still believe strength is shown by rushing to the fight." He gave no order to avoid them. Instead, he adjusted the ship's course to meet them directly. To him, the Karath were not a threat. They were a delay. The warship's AI, a calm voice that seemed to come from every wall, spoke. "Admiral, Council communications continue. They demand your intentions." Kalen's lips curved into the smallest hint of a smile. "They will know my intentions soon enough," he replied. The AI did not argue. It simply shifted the ship's systems to battle readiness. The faint blue glow along the hull brightened. Somewhere deep inside, weapons older than any living species began to stir. Kalen walked to the observation deck. From here, the void stretched endlessly. He could see the distant lights of stars, the cold glitter of asteroids, and far ahead, a faint shimmer, the Karath fleet, waiting. He remembered the last time he had faced them. Their ships had been different then, cruder, but their arrogance was the same. Back then, they had called humanity a loud child with too many guns. It had taken 3 days for humanity to erase their forward armada. And yet, after 20,000 years, here they were again, eager for the same lesson, on the lower decks. The human soldiers prepared for possible boarding attempts. They checked their weapons, sleek, black rifles that seemed to hum faintly, their armor fit like a second skin, its surface shifting to match the light around them. They did not speak of fear. They had been chosen long ago for their ability to face the impossible without hesitation. Some had fought in wars before the silence. Others had been taken from the best military academies of the old worlds. Time had not touched them. To the galaxy, they were relics, but to Kalen, they were the sharpest blades humanity had ever forged. The ship's engines shifted to full power. The stars outside began to blur. In the distance, the Karath fleet grew larger. Kellen's officers awaited the order. It was not the council he was thinking about, and it was not the Karath either. It was the darkness beyond the rim. He knew the moment the warship revealed its true strength, the entire galaxy would tremble. And they needed that fear, because when the real enemy came, only a united galaxy would stand a chance. The warship did not slow down. It cut through the dark like a blade, and the man at its heart, the last human admiral, did not blink. For Kalen knew something the galaxy did not yet understand. This was not humanity's return. This was humanity's warning. The Karath Dominion's fleet waited in the cold dark of space, 1,000 warships, lined in perfect formation, their black hulls marked with crimson stripes. They were the pride of the Dominion, each one armed with enough firepower to level a planet. Their commanders stood on their bridges with confidence. They believed the stories of human strength were old myths, exaggerated by history. They believed they would crush this single warship and prove to the galaxy that the Karath were the supreme power. In the center of their formation was the High Warlord's flagship, a massive dreadnought bristling with cannons. Its captain, a scarred veteran named Darath, stood tall as the human vessel approached. He gave the order to broadcast. A deep, growling voice filled the open channel. "This is the fleet of the Karath Dominion, human ship. You will halt immediately and submit to inspection." Silence answered him. The human vessel kept moving, slow and steady, its black hull reflecting none of the starlight. Durath's eyes narrowed. "Repeat the order," he growled, again. There was no reply. On the Karath ships, weapons began to power up, their red glow spreading across the void. Missile bays opened, railguns locked into place. Energy cannons hummed with deadly charge. Every captain waited for the High Warlords final order in their minds. This would be over quickly. One volley, one crippled human ship, and the rest of the galaxy would see Karath dominance. On the human warship's bridge, Admiral Kalen stood calm. His eyes were on the tactical display, showing the Karath formation. He could see the gaps in their lines, the predictable patterns in their movements. It was the same arrogance they had shown in the wars of the past. His officers waited for his word. "Shields to full power," Kalen said quietly. The ship responded instantly, its faint blue glow intensifying along the hull. "Prepare main weapons," he added. A deep hum began to build through the warship. Low and powerful, like the growl of a great beast waking from sleep, the Karath fired first. 1,000 beams of red energy streaked through the void. Explosions lit the dark where their shots struck the human warship. But when the light faded, the vessel remained untouched. The Karath gunners stared in disbelief. The warship had not even moved. Yet every shot had been swallowed by its defenses. A ripple of unease spread through the Dominion fleet. Still, their captains pushed forward, sending wave after wave of fire. It was like throwing stones at a mountain. "Return fire," Kalen said. The warship's side panels slid open silently, revealing sleek, smooth weapons unlike anything in modern fleets. There was no visible barrel, no moving parts, just glowing blue light. The first shot fired. It was not a beam or a missile, but a pulse of energy so fast that the eye barely caught it. The lead Karath battleship vanished in a flash, leaving only drifting fragments. The second shot followed, then the third. Each one erased a ship completely, as if they had never existed. The Karath commanders tried to scatter, but it was too late. The human warship moved now, its massive frame turning with impossible grace for its size. It cut through the enemy formation, its weapons firing with perfect precision. Every shot was lethal, every impact final. Within minutes, hundreds of Karath warships were gone. Those that remained fled in chaos, their once perfect formation shattered. On the Karath flagship, Captain Durath's hands tightened into fists. His comms officer shouted that their shield generators were failing. Durath gave the only order left: all ships, retreat. He did not say it for strategy. He said it because he knew, if they stayed, there would be nothing left in the Hall of Worlds. The live battle feed played in stunned silence. Every delegate saw the Kurof's proud fleet destroyed as if it were nothing. The destruction was precise. The human warship had not targeted escape pods or crippled ships. It had only destroyed those still fighting. It was not mindless slaughter, it was a display, a cold, clear message to the entire galaxy. Back on his bridge, Kalen gave the order to stand down weapons. The blue glow along the hull dimmed to its steady pulse. The warship resumed its original course toward the galactic core. Kalen's crew said nothing. They understood what had just happened. The Kurof challenge had been crushed, but the real battle, the one beyond the rim, had not even begun. Far away, the scattered Kurof survivors limped back to their space. They would not speak of victory. They would speak of the black ship, the glowing blue lines, and the man who commanded it without fear. And in every corner of the galaxy, from the richest worlds to the most forgotten outposts, the same words were whispered over and over. Humanity is back. The galaxy had seen the destruction of the Kurof fleet. Every council chamber, every military base, every trading station had watched it happen in real time. One human warship had stood against 1,000 Kurof vessels, and one without, taking a single hit. Now, no one laughed at the old stories. No one called humanity a myth anymore. They were real, they were powerful, and they were moving straight toward the heart of galactic civilization. The Galactic Council demanded answers. Their communications flooded every known frequency. They wanted to know why the humans had returned. They wanted to know if this was a declaration of war. But until now, the black warship had remained silent. It ignored every hail, every demand, every threat, until the moment Admiral Kalen decided it was time to speak. On the warship's bridge, Kalen stood before the main communications array. His officers watched quietly as the ship's AI prepared the broadcast. "This message will be heard in every system?" Kalen asked. "Yes, Admiral," the AI replied in its calm, even tone. Kalen gave a single nod. "Begin transmission," he said, across the galaxy. In crowded market squares, busy docking bays, and quiet living rooms, every screen flickered. The image of Admiral Kalen appeared, standing tall in the black and silver uniform of a time long past. His voice was steady, low, and carried the weight of someone who had seen more than anyone alive. "To the galaxy," he began. "We are humanity, and we have returned." He paused, letting the words settle like a shadow over every listening heart. "For 20,000 years, we have been silent," Kalen continued. "Some believed we were gone. Some believed we were defeated. But the truth is far different." He leaned forward slightly, his eyes sharp. "We withdrew because a threat beyond your understanding was rising at the edge of this galaxy. A threat that even humanity, at the height of its power, could not face without preparation." In the council chambers, delegates leaned closer to their screens. Even the loudest and most arrogant fell silent. Kalen's image filled the massive crystal display in the Hall of Worlds. His gaze seemed to pierce through the glass, as if looking into the eyes of each leader personally. "They are older than your empires," Kalen said. "Older than your stars. They do not come to conquer planets, they come to consume them. They do not negotiate, they do not retreat, and they cannot be reasoned with. We call them the shadows beyond the rim. Some of you have seen signs already: missing colonies, dead systems, drifting worlds with no life. These are not accidents. They are the first taste of what is coming." He straightened, his tone unshaken. "For 20,000 years, we have been building weapons, training soldiers, and preparing ships to face this enemy. We have returned now because time is running out. You will choose to stand with us, or you will fall alone." The transmission was felt as much as it was heard. In the vast mining colonies of the Belt Worlds, workers stopped in mid-swing of their drills, on merchant freighters. Crews gathered in silence around their screens. In military academies, young cadets leaned forward with wide eyes. Everyone understood one thing. The humans were not asking, they were telling. In the Hall of Worlds, chaos erupted. Some Delegates shouted that it was a human trick, a way to seize power. Others argued that if the shadows were real, they would need humanity's help to survive. Old rivalries burned hot, but beneath the noise, a single truth gnawed at every leader's thoughts. If one warship could erase 1,000 Karath ships in minutes, what could a fleet of them do? Back on the warship, Kalen ended the transmission with a single line. "Whether you stand with us or against us, the shadows are coming," he said. "And when they arrive, there will be no second chances." The broadcast cut, leaving every world staring at blank screens. For a long time no one moved. It was as if the galaxy itself was holding its breath. In the quiet that followed, Kalen turned to his crew. "Set course for the rim," he ordered. The engines roared to life. The blue glow along the hull brightened. The warship turned toward the edge of known space, the place where light gave way to darkness, and beyond that darkness, something vast and patient was waiting. The black warship moved through the void like a shadow with purpose. Its engines burned silent blue, leaving no trail for enemy sensors to follow. Ahead lay the rim, the edge of the galaxy where the last faint light of the stars faded into black nothingness. Behind it lay a galaxy that was no longer sure of itself. Some called the humans saviors, others called them a threat. But none could deny the truth. The warship was moving towards something, and it was not slowing down. From the moment Kellen's warning had been broadcast, the galaxy had been split. A few brave captains brought their ships to join the human vessel. These were not sent by their governments. They came on their own, risking exile or worse. There was the silver spear-shaped frigate of the Eldari, crewed by scholars who had studied the old human wars. There was a pair of war cutters from the Scare tribes, their hulls scarred from decades of pirate hunting. And there was even a single Karath destroyer, its commander defying the High Warlord's orders to retreat in shame. These ships followed the human warship at a respectful distance. They did not try to lead. They did not question the course. They simply followed. But not everyone wished to stand with humanity. In the back rooms of the Galactic Council, leaders whispered plans to sabotage the warship before it could become too powerful. Old rivalries outweighed the fear of the shadows beyond the rim. Some argued that the humans were lying about the threat. Others feared that even if the shadows were real, the humans would use the war to seize control. Assassins were hired, spies were sent, but none could get close. The warship's defenses saw everything long before it arrived. On the warship's bridge, Kalen watched the rim grow closer on the star map. Every day, the strange energy readings increased. Sensors picked up faint distortions in space, like ripples moving ahead of them. The crew worked in silence, but the tension could be felt in the air. They knew they were nearing the point of no return. Once they crossed into the dark, there would be no quick way back. Late in the second week of travel, the first sign appeared. A Scare scout ship flying ahead sent an urgent signal. Its captain's voice was sharp with fear. "We've found something. You need to see this." The human warship changed course and met the scout at the coordinates. What they found made even the most hardened soldiers pause. Floating in the void was a planet, not a normal world, but one stripped bare. No atmosphere, no oceans, no life. Its surface was scorched black, as if burned by a fire that had no flame. Sensors showed no radiation, no signs of weapons. Whatever had done this had consumed the planet completely, leaving only dead rock. Kalen stared at the display, his jaw set. "They're closer than I thought," he said quietly. The alien captains who had joined the humans gathered on the warship for a meeting. Some were visibly shaken. Others tried to mask their fear with cold logic. An Eldari scholar named Thalan spoke first. "If they can do this to a world, how do we stop them?" Kellen's answer was simple. "We hit them before they hit us." He explained that the shadows were not endless. They could be fought, but only with weapons built for that purpose. And humanity had built those weapons, hidden away in places the galaxy had forgotten. For the next several days, the fleet moved in silence. They passed through abandoned systems where debris drifted like frozen ghosts. They found the remains of ships, some ancient, some only a few years old. Every piece told the same story. The enemy did not take prisoners. On the fourth day, the shadows in the dark began to move, faint at first, like smudges in the stars, then slowly taking form. Something massive was out there, watching them. No one could tell how many there were. The shapes were too big to measure, their movements too smooth for machines. Kalen stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the black beyond the viewport. "They know we're here," he said. The crew checked weapons, reinforced shields, and sent word to the Allied ships. This was not the battle yet. The shadows were testing them, feeling their strength. The air on the bridge was heavy with unspoken thoughts. Everyone knew the real storm was coming as the fleet drew closer to the rim. Strange distortions began to ripple through space. Navigation systems struggled to hold a steady course. It felt as if something was bending the void itself, twisting it into shapes that did not belong. The human warship did not falter. Its engines pushed forward with unwavering force. Callan's voice carried over the comms to every ship. "Stay close, no one breaks formation," he ordered. His tone was calm, but behind it was steel. They were about to cross the line into the unknown, and once they did, the galaxy would never be the same again. The edge of the rim was silent, too silent. The stars behind the fleet seemed smaller here, their light dimmer. Ahead was a wall of darkness so deep it felt alive. No planets, no stations, no debris, just empty black. But every captain felt it. Something was there, waiting. The human warship slowed, its engines humming low. Admiral Kalen stood at the center of the bridge. His eyes were fixed on the darkness, his hands resting on the command table. The air was heavy, as if the void itself was pressing down on the fleet. The Allied ships kept formation, their crews tense, weapons armed. Then the sensors began to scream. Dozens of signals appeared at once, surrounding them on every side. They came out of the darkness without warning. Massive creatures shaped like nothing the galaxy had ever built. Their bodies were made of shifting black matter, bending and twisting in ways that defied reason. No engines, no visible weapons. Yet they moved with terrifying speed. Where they passed, light seemed to vanish, swallowed into their bodies. The smallest was the size of a battleship. The largest dwarfed even the human warship. And they were closing fast. "Shadows inbound," the warship's assay announced, its voice calm despite the chaos. "Engage all weapons," Kalen ordered. The blue lines along the hull flared bright. Panels slid open, revealing weapons that seemed to hum with a strange energy. The first shot fired, a pulse of blinding blue light that tore through a shadow beast in a single instant. Its body dissolved into black mist before vanishing completely. The fleet opened fire. Eldari lances burned holes through smaller creatures. Scar warcutters tore into them with heavy plasma cannons. But for every beast destroyed, more appeared from the dark. One of the scare cutters was hit, the shadow beast's body wrapped around it like a living net. The ship's hull groaned under the crushing pressure. Its lights flickered, then died. Callan's eyes flicked to the tactical display. "Target it now," he ordered. The warship's main cannon fired, blasting the beast apart in one searing strike. The cutter drifted free, engines sparking but still intact. The battle turned into chaos. The beasts moved like predators, darting in and out of the fleet's formation. Some tried to ram, others lashed out with tendrils of black matter that cut through shields like paper. The human warship was the anchor, its guns cutting down anything that came close. Callan's voice remained steady over the comms, giving orders, shifting formations. Every move was precise, every strike timed perfectly. The Allied captains followed without hesitation. Without the human ship, they would already be lost then. The largest beast appeared. It emerged from the darkness like a drifting moon. Its size was so great it blocked out half the starfield. Its body pulsed with deep red cracks of energy. Every sensor screamed warnings of impossible power readings. Kalen knew this was the leader, or something worse. "All weapons concentrate fire." He commanded. The fleet unleashed everything they had. Blue, red, and gold beams lanced. Through the void, missiles streaked toward the target in swarms. The beast absorbed most of it, its body rippling as if mocking their efforts. Then it struck. A wave of black energy burst from it. Shields collapsed instantly. Ships spun out of formation. One Eldari frigate vanished into the dark. Swallowed whole, the human warship systems. Groaned, the blue glow along its hull flickering. But it did not fall. Kalen gripped the table, his voice low but fierce. Charge the core cannon. Deep inside the warship, energy built to a blinding level. The blue lines along the hull turned white, the hum rising into a sharp vibration that every crew member could feel in their bones. The cannon fired. It was not a beam, not a missile. It was a spear of pure energy, ripping straight through the beast's center. The creature's body froze, its red cracks flashing once, twice, then shattering apart. Its remains dissolved into dust that vanished into the void. The remaining beasts hesitated, their movements faltering. The fleet pressed the attack, cutting them down one by one. Minutes later, the darkness was still again. The sensors showed no more contacts, only drifting debris and the dim light of the stars behind them on the bridge. Kalen stood in silence for a moment. He knew this was only a small part of the enemy's strength. The shadows would come again, in greater numbers, in greater force. But for now, they had won. The Allied ships began repairs, crews counting the dead and wounded. Every captain knew the truth. Without the humans, none of them would have survived. Kalen turned to his crew. This was the first test, he said, his voice quiet but carrying to every corner of the bridge. The war has only begun. Outside, the void stretched endlessly. Somewhere in that blackness, the rest of the enemy waited, and the human warship was already preparing to meet them. The battle at the rim was over. The void where the fleet had fought was now quiet. But the silence was not peace. It was the kind of silence that comes after a storm, when everyone knows another one is waiting. Wreckage drifted among the stars, broken ships turning slowly in the darkness. Some belonged to the beasts, their strange black matter already dissolving into nothing. Others were the Allied ships that had not survived. Every captain who remained knew the cost. The human warship floated at the center of the surviving fleet. Its black armor was scorched in places. The glowing blue lines dimmed from the energy it had spent. But it still stood. It had been the wall that had held the line, the heart that kept the fleet from breaking. Without it, the shadows would have devoured them all. The Allied captains gathered in a secure channel, their voices low but steady, one by one. They admitted the same truth. Humanity's warning was real, the enemy was real, and without humanity's strength, the galaxy would fall on the warship's bridge. Admiral Kalen listened to the reports. His crew moved with quiet efficiency, tending to repairs, running scans, and checking on the Allied vessels. When the last report came in, Kalen stood at the center of the deck. "Send a message to all ships," he said, a moment later. His voice reached every captain. "You fought well today, all of you," Kalen began. "But this was only the beginning. The shadows will return in greater numbers, and next time, they will not test us. They will try to end us. If you choose to fight, humanity will fight beside you. But understand this. If you choose to turn away now, there will be no safe place to hide when they come." There was no argument, not from the Eldari captain, not from the Scare commander, not even from the lone Karath who had joined them. The battle had burned away doubt. They had seen with their own eyes what the human warship could do, and they had seen that even its power was not enough to guarantee survival without unity. Far away, in the Hall of Worlds, the Galactic Council watched the battle recordings. Delegates who had once laughed at the idea of humans now sat in uneasy silence. Every shot fired, every beast destroyed, every moment where the fleet had been seconds from collapse. It was all there. The High Warlord of the Karath Dominion, shamed by the destruction of his fleet, had no choice but to admit the truth. The shadows were not a human lie, they were the end of all things. The council voted in an emergency session. They would open communications with humanity. They would form a united defense pact. But deep down, every leader knew this was not just an alliance. It was the beginning of a new balance of power, one where humanity would once again stand at the center. In the weeks that followed, word spread across the galaxy. Worlds that had forgotten the old human wars now spoke their name with respect. Some spoke it with fear, others with hope. Recruitment centers filled with volunteers from dozens of species. Shipyards began building new vessels, their designs modified with human technology, and through it all, the Black Warship remained at the forefront. It became a symbol, a promise that the galaxy would not face the coming darkness alone. But on the warship itself, Kalen knew this was not victory, it was survival, for now. The shadows had been pushed back, not destroyed. They would adapt. They would come again, and next time, the cost would be greater. Still, there was a shift in the air. For 20,000 years, humanity had been silent. Now, their voice was heard again in every corner of the galaxy. They were not conquerors, not this time. They were guardians. Warriors who had seen the true enemy and returned to stand against it. One night, if night could be called anything in the endless dark, Kalen stood on the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly before him. Somewhere out there, beyond the rim, the shadows waited. But somewhere else, hidden in human space, the rest of their fleet was being prepared. Ships even larger than this one, weapons that had never been seen before. When they came, they would not come as one warship. They would come as a storm, and the galaxy would remember. It would remember the day humanity returned, the day one warship stood against the darkness and survived, the day the galaxy trembled, not in fear of destruction, but in the knowledge that the humans were here again, and they were not going away. The silence of the last 20,000 years was broken. A new age had begun, the age of humanity, and it would be written in the light of warships sailing against the black,